So it is 2 in the morning, and I finished doing Artcasters. Then after Artcasters, I did the typographic layout and the panel border layouts for page 19 of Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and also got all my photo refs. And so tomorrow I'll do pencils for that. But since it's hit about 2 o'clock, I'm gonna crash so that I'm not dead at work tomorrow. But yeah, and also I thought this garage lighting was like extra spooky looking. It kind of looks like the Blair Witch Project, so I thought it might be a good intro to my vlogging. Thursday. I'm heading to work, where I work as an art director, and I'm just gonna do a quick vlog. So last night I worked on Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which is the graphic novel where I have to do about 230 pages by April and I'm on page like 19. And I got most of the type all done. What I generally will do with typography is like lay it out in Illustrator, and then for this book, because I'm illustrating it all digitally, I then kind of like draw over the layout that I made with like panel borders and type and everything like that, so that it has a more like kind of hand done look and kind of gels better with the interior artwork. And then basically I do start doing pencils basically for the comic. And like the nice thing about this is it kind of cuts out one part of the process because I do pencils and that's it. Whereas like with my other comics, it's like I have to pencil and then ink, and so it can kind of take a little bit more time. So yeah, so that's basically what I got done on page 19. My hope tonight is to, when I get home, I'll probably take a quick power nap, and then I'll probably get to penciling the page, and hopefully, fingers crossed, be able to finish the pencils for the page tonight. But my hope is by the end of this weekend, I need to be a little bit past page 20 to be on point, I think, to kind of hit the deadline. And so anyhow, that's kind of where I'm at on that. And just kind of wanted to also mention that, like, I talked about the abundance mindset thing on my last vlog, and how I've been like kind of trying to have a better idea of like life in general, like a better perspective. And a lot of it has to do with being like rooted in my faith. So the idea being that you need to kind of proceed from life out of an idea of having a lot rather than having a little. I think that when people walk around kind of acting like they have limited resources, they tend to behave really selfishly. They hoard, they sort of, I gotta stop kind of saying people and just saying myself. Like, if I start viewing things from like a scarcity mindset, I'm kind of hoard. I'm gonna be very defensive and protective of my own stuff. And I'm not gonna have like sort of a life that reflects the life of Christ, which is like a huge belief of mine, that I believe is something I'm supposed to do, is like try to live and become like Christ. And I think part of that has a lot to do with just kind of seeing the abundance around you. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm also realizing that, like, that can be really hard for a lot of people, especially if you have extremely limited resources. It's kind of hard to look at things
from the perspective of like the abundance that you actually have. And I personally find it kind of tough because I know like I'm not like super wealthy in my mind, and it's easy to get in that mindset. But then when I look around and I look at all the things that I've been gifted with, there are resources I have that I don't even acknowledge half the time. A lot of them are like a functional mind, the ability to do art, the ability to move my hands. Like all of these things are like potentially limited things. Life itself is a huge gift, and I need to remember that. Like it's I know it's weird to kind of ramble about this, but it's just amazing to me that I will forget that like just the act of being able to like drive to work, to have a car to get to work, which who knows, maybe that'll, all of these things can be taken away. But when what a shame it would be. Like imagine if you were living life and you're handed like $1 million and you hoard that $1 million, your scarcity mindset about that $1 million, and you're just like, it's just in your account, just accruing interest. You never take a risk, you never invest it, you never actually, abundantly give, and then it's taken away. What's the first thing you would probably think? I think you would probably think like, why was I so stuck on this scarcity mindset and not living with the abundance that I have? Like, why was I not seeing the abundance that I had? Why was I not using the gift that was abundantly given? So anyhow, it's weird. I know I'm rambling about abundance and stuff, but it's just like a huge thought in my mind right now. I'm excited. So my wife has been in Utah kind of helping out family. There's some pretty kind of heavy issues that I don't want to get like too heavily into because I'm not sure how much she is okay with me sharing. But it's some family stuff like that, comes up in life, and it's very heavy stuff. The thing that's been going through my mind while going through that as well has been the fact that like we're all going to go through a lot of rough things in life, and that at someday we're going to die. Right? We're all gonna die. Welcome to my vlog. We're all gonna die. But it's a good thing to remember. It's like, I don't think it's healthy to be like always obsessed about death and like freaked out. But it's a good thing to know and realize and think about the fact that like I'm gonna die someday. And so what am I doing with the life that I have and what I've been given? And then as a believer, it's like I think there's more beyond this life, and so I think there are some really important things that you're not going to find out by just pursuing money or pursuing success in industry. Whatever the next thing is. I think quite often we end up being like dogs that are chasing our own tails, and we never stop to kind of think about like the implications of what we're doing. Anyhow, as cartoonists, I think it's important to be aware of the fact of death because we want to make stuff. And one of the hardest things I think for artists and illustrators and cartoonists is like finding the inspiration and the will to create. I know a lot of people who've wanted to make comics for a really long time, and maybe at most they've done like a 20-page comic and of their own, right? right? Like they've done comics for other people, they've done like commercial art, done plenty of art for money, but they don't do their own project. They don't see their own creative vision come to life, and they're full of regret, like, about that. I know a few of these people have like an extreme scarce mindset, like where they kind of like envy and get mad and kind of jealous of like people who have actually gone further and completed like entire graphic novels and stuff, and or completed more than one issue of a comic. And it's like, I think that I think it's, I don't know, this is an interesting thing to think about, but it makes sense that they feel bitter and angry, because it's like, if you feel like you're supposed to do something and you're not doing it, and we're gonna die, that if you combine all those things, it like makes perfect sense that one would feel bitterness and anger and stuff like that, because deep down they know like there's limited time in this life. On this side of the earth, like, you know, on this side of existence. And what are you doing with the time that you have? That's a heavy responsibility. I mean, that's the responsibility that drives existentialists mad, because, you know, I think from an existentialistic viewpoint, it can be quite hard to sort of justify any sort of great feat or achievement, because at the end of the day, like, it's hard to change the fact that we die. But then I've been thinking about that, like, the fact that life itself is a gift, the fact that there's more to life than just commerce. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, I think there is so much value to things that people have no monetary value for. A good example would be like moms, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like being a mother, at least seeing my wife being a mother, has a mass amount of value. Like, it shapes the future of society. Like, my wife does a lot of stay-at-home momming, and then and also freelances and does children's books. But she's a powerhouse. She's an incredibly important and strong person. I shouldn't just say motherhood. I should say parenthood, because I know there's like stay-at-home dads and stay-at-home caretakers and stuff like that. But the point being is, like, somebody who's shepherding a child, who is raising and training up the next generation, has an immense amount of value to society, whether society sees it or not. They're generating future revenue for society. So just on like a cold, like, if all you're thinking about is money, they have a monetary value, but it's not a short-term value. And the way that they treat and raise their children affects future generations. It affects future legislation. It affects it affects so much. It affects the psyche and well-being of that kid. Like, if you're raised with like terrible parents, you know, the psychological damage done there, you couldn't earn enough money in the world to make better. And so again, like, that's even a moment where I look at my own life and I'm like, I don't always see things in abundance, and I should. Like, I was very blessed to have good parents, like, who were, you know, present and involved in my life, and had my best interest at heart. Were they perfect? No one has perfect parents, but they were amazing. And honestly, like, had they not been, it would have been really rough, because I didn't have an easy time of it, you know, in elementary school. I write about, you know, being a nerd, basically, in elementary school quite a lot. And just being a bit isolated and outcasted with children my own age, at the time. And so I just imagine, like, if my family hadn't been supportive during that time, I have no idea who I would have become. But I wonder if that's like that for everyone, where we're constantly looking at, like, the things we don't have and not looking at the gifts we do. And also, I think quite often just not thinking about death. And then it kind of sneaks up and just grabs people and takes them. And as you get older, it starts happening more and more to, people closer and closer to you. And I think there's a value to thinking about it, not obsessing about it, but being aware of it, thinking about it, and thinking about your own philosophy. And I'm not saying, like, become a Christian tomorrow, because I don't think you can force that kind of thing. And also, like, I don't even, like, theologically, like, I'm not even sure you get to choose that kind of thing. I kind of think it's weird. It's like, I think there's, like, free will, but I think there's also predestination. It's like this weird thing. So I don't think I can force people on that. But I do think, considering, like, our mortality is really smart for an artist. First off, it's, like, great for mining material. And well, actually, I was gonna start doing a list, but I'm not gonna be able to keep track of the numbers. It's gonna make you a stronger writer, because most art somehow, even if you think of, like, Avatar, right, The Last Airbender, the cartoon, one of the reasons that cartoon is so good is, even though it's fantasy, it has a real weight to mortality. When a character dies, it's got, like, these ripple effects on other characters. There's, like, a history that's carried by these characters that is informed by mortality. And that just makes for a much more strong, moving story. I think that it'll not just make you more aware of that, it'll make you more kind to your neighbor. Like, it'll make you kinder to people around you. If you realize that, like, we all have limited time, then, like, maybe we'll be wiser with the way we spend that time, and also treat other people who have limited time as well. Anyhow, I don't know. I've been thinking about, like, mortality, and this might be, a strange thing, but it's like, for me, I think that's a massive game changer when it comes to being productive as a creative too. Because if you want to write books, at the end of the day, like, you're gonna run out of time if you don't do it. And there's not endless time. I've met so many writers that are gonna write their great novel and just never do, and it's heartbreaking.
Watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Now, because of what I was talking about, like, awareness of mortality and thinking of others, there are definite times in your life where you just, like, there's literally just no way to fulfill all of your dreams. And I think the slippery, kind of tough thing with, like, creativity, and the desire to kind of story tell and, like, generate new stories, I think there's also just this weird reality of, like, you're never going to actually be able to get everything done the way you want it done, and you're probably never going to actually be able to achieve everything you set out to do as a creative. Like, there's always going to be a flaw to it, or even if you hypothetically got it done flawlessly, there's a potential that you're going to unlock another desire as you're kind of pursuing that. And I think it does kind of become the ghost that you chase as a creative forever, which is this mythical creature of contentment with your art. And I don't know if that ever arrives. I don't think it does. I think that's half the pursuit of art, is just kind of making stuff, and then as you're making stuff, your mind expands, your desires expand, and then you want to make more. And it never really is going to fulfill or fill, like, you know, your heart's desire. But being aware of mortality, at least, you know, you can be serious about, if you're in a fortunate enough position to have time to, like, watch television, or have a functional body, and mind, then, you know, I don't know, if you think about mortality, maybe that, like, well, when I get time, well, when I, you know, all that excuse making that we tend to do will kind of fly out the window, and you'll just make it. It's a hard thing to kind of learn. It took me a long time as a young cartoonist to, like, actually just overcome that barrier and hurdle of, like, well, I'll do it next week, or I'll do it when I learn, or I'll do it when conditions are perfect. When my wife and I were considering having a kid, it was kind of the same thing. Initially, we held off for a while, just saying, like, well, we'll do it when we have more money. We'll do it when we, and you could just fill in the "we'll do it when we" with, like, every reason in the book. And there does come a point where you're either going to just jump and you know, do it.
Watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Thank you, Waze. I don't see the vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead. But yeah, there's going to come a time where you either do it, and you have a kid, or you don't, and you don't have kids. Like, there's a limited window of time, even in that scenario. So with art, it's the same thing, where it's like, you know, are you going to have your creative project? Are you going to birth that? Or are you going to, you know, put it off till there's just no time? You know, I don't know. I think it's worth thinking about. Again, like I said, I don't think it's worth obsessing about. You know, I had a time in my life that I wrote about in 2 stories where it's like I was very obsessed with death, to, like, a dangerous viewpoint, you know, where I fell into, like, despair, you know, and I think that despair is a really dangerous but true possibility. But I think that, like, just broaching that idea is a good thing for artists and creatives, especially if you find yourself in a position where, you know, like, you feel like
Watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Okay, I still don't see that vehicle, but we'll see. So yeah, I that's all that's on my mind right now. I don't want to belabor it, but just some thoughts. I'm excited. So my plan is today, get home. Well, first get through the work day. Hopefully get out on time. We'll see. And then get home, take a power nap, and then just power through, at least getting, at minimum, I'd want to get all the line art done for the next page of Not Death But Love. And then also I'm really excited because I get to see Benji and my wife tomorrow, which is pretty cool because they've been out of town. They left about a week before I went to TCAF to go stay with family in Utah, and because a kind of semi-crisis kind of came up, but it was also a planned trip because Ben needs to see his grandma, and you know, my wife wants to visit her family and stuff like that. And I couldn't go because I was going to go to TCAF, and yeah, so we've been kind of separate for about like 3 weeks, and that's pretty hard for me. Like I mean, it's but again, it's like, I think it's helpful in that, like, abundance mindset too, to think about that. Like, my son is really a gift, my wife is a gift, and I really appreciate them, and my son is amazing, and I miss him a lot. I miss him.
Watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
As a parent with, like, an 8-year-old, you can have moments where you're just like, man, I could go for like a day of just not being asked to do something or something like that by my kid, whatever it is. But all it takes is like one day without your kid, and it's just like, it's this heart-wrenching thing, because this little dude is a part of who you are. Like there's a little bit of you in them, and like also there's such a meaningful part of your life, you know, at least for me.
Police reported ahead.
There's police too? What the heck, man? Waze is going nuts. There's no car stop on the shoulder. There's no police. But Waze is just like, there's police, there's cars. Anyhow, so just some thoughts that are on my mind. So I'll probably go to LAX tomorrow. Hopefully for the last time in a while, because traffic is going to be hideous. May not be as bad as it is on the weekdays, weirdly enough, but we'll see. Yeah, and then you know, hopefully I've gotten a little bit of progress on my comic, and yeah. All right. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think about mortality a lot as an artist? And are you know, I guess, are you seeing your creative vision come to fruition while you're here? Like basically, do you think about mortality a lot? Do you guys consider that a lot as artists? I find it, like, I think it's probably one of the most important things to think about, especially when it comes to like how you're going to conduct yourself on this earth, like, you know. And it ties into the whole abundance thing that my brain's been, you know, thinking about.